Coming into this season, the Buffalo Sabres were undoubtedly the biggest failure in the NHL. The longest active playoff drought in the league and all of major sports had created a downward spiral so bad that even the league was concerned about the future of their franchise. Last season was a mess as well, missing the playoffs for the 14th consecutive year. So, coming into this season, the expectations were very jaded around this team. They came out how everyone expected, a 14-14-4 start that had him tied for dead last in the Eastern Conference. Apparently, that was enough for Sabres ownership to say, screw it, we've had enough, and they fired GM Kevin Adams to bring in Jarmo Kekalainen. All of a sudden, the season turned around. They won 10 in a row to get them back in the playoff conversation and have been one of the hottest teams in the league since. All of this has them currently in a wildcard spot, which begs the question, will this finally happen? Are we finally going to see the Buffalo Sabres play playoff hockey for the first time on HD television? Or is this simply just a hot run that will fade down the stretch? Now, I do realize that making this video is essentially a jinx and death wish for the Buffalo Sabres. So, here's my formal apology to Sabres fans before that even happens. I'm on your side here. The Bills got screwed. Brett Hull's foot was in the crease. And if there's any sports city that deserves a good story right now, it's Buffalo. But the Sabres this year are one of the most fascinating stories, and their play has them flirting with the idea of getting back in the dance. Now, on the surface, nothing changed from the beginning of the season other than the GM. Bringing in Jarmo certainly lit a fire under their ass, and by reports, has helped shift the culture a little bit to bring some more accountability to the team as a whole. So that can't be understated. However, the coach is still the same in Lindy Ruff, and the roster is nearly identical from the start of the season. So, why does Buffalo look like a completely new team? First, let's start with what they're doing incredibly well, and that's scoring goals. In the summer, when we covered what went wrong with Buffalo last season, we looked at what they did tactically, offensively, and how they want to expose teams. In the last 5 seasons, in terms of goals for, the Sabres have been a roller coaster. Last season, though, they finished 10th in overall scoring, and where they thrived the most was scoring off the rush. They had the best rush shooting percentage in the league, and they were in the top echelon of teams when it came to possession entries and exits. That's been a big part of the carryover into this season as they remain a top 10 team in NHL scoring. That's because with the mobility and skill set of the Sabres D-core, they're one of the most active in the league in jumping up in the play to give Buffalo a numbers advantage. With defenders like Dahlin, Power, and Byram all being high-end skaters that have the poise to hang on to pucks, escape forechecks, and transport the puck, the Sabres are most deadly on plays like this. Sometimes their defenders can be 1, 2, maybe even 3 forecheckers and then immediately create a deadly rush chance. Because of their high-end skill, this is still where the Sabres are the most deadly offensively. The next area is their ozone play. The Sabres leverage their strengths with possession. The defense stay very aggressive by activating down the flanks as the forwards rotate high and in the middle. The motion and almost this positionalist style of offense makes it extremely difficult for defenses to mark their man. Here's a prime example against the defending Cup champs. Watch as Tage Thompson works his way across the blue line here, and look at both Byram and Power activate down the flanks while Doan and Thompson rotate high and in the middle. The movement, along with Thompson saying, "Get off me, little fella," creates room for him to step in, and Buffalo ends up scoring. Here's another example that starts again with the Sabres' weak side D jumping up into the space. It doesn't materialize there, but then all 5 players start to kick into motion. Byram steps in, and in a zone defense that Vancouver's playing here, that forces this forward and defender to switch assignments and pass the guy off. That buys Byram some space to attack. 2 Sabres rotate high into the middle to cover, and Tuck comes down the flank unmarked with Vancouver's coverage missing him entirely, and it ends up in another goal. The most effective way to break down defenses and beat goalies is by making the puck move east to west cleanly. Because the Sabres' weak side D is so fluid and coming off the blue line along with the other players diving in and out of the middle to create confusion, it can create these juicy cross-ice seams for them to exploit when executed properly. That being said, one of Buffalo's Achilles heel on offense last year was generating offense off the cycle and forecheck. They ranked 29th in the league last year in this category, and systematically, they play a standard 1-2-2. However, the breakdown in forecheck effectiveness came largely from the Sabres' F3. A lot of times last year, Buffalo's F3 would skate deep into the zone to try and take away that middle exit. Usually, a hard rim and bump play left them susceptible to an odd man chance the other way, or just led to a rather easy breakout. Being the youngest team in the league last year, the Sabres' decision-making would hurt them on most nights. This year, it seems to be more the same when you look at their advanced numbers by the team. This season, almost every single Sabre is below average when it comes to generating chances off the forecheck and cycle, except for Ryan McLeod. That checks out given that most of their high-end players are well above the average line when generating shots off the rush. As a result, sustained pressure for Buffalo is still hard to come by. Some concerning numbers is that they rank in the bottom third of teams in terms of actual ozone possession and high danger shots for. Basically what this means is that the Sabres are deadly when they get their chances, but the quantity isn't exactly there yet. I do think this is where a player like Josh Doan has really come in and helped this team. In the summer, the Sabres took flack for trading JJ Peterka to Utah for Josh Doan and Michael Kesselring. Now, Peterka has the most talent out of those three, but Doan specifically provides a big need for the Sabres, which are forwards who are defensively responsible. Doan leads all NHL players in takeaways this season, and for a team that has really lacked identity and details, he's come in and provided that element in Buffalo's game, and in return, that has helped Buffalo create some more offense. But if Buffalo is truly going to take that next step, they need to be flexible in how they create offense, and in their most recent hot stretch, they've shown how they can use their speed to create these types of goals on the forecheck, and here's an example. Sabres get into that 1-2-2, but the F1 and F2 can't cut off the initial play entirely, but they just get enough to disrupt a clean breakout. Then, here's the importance of the F3. Watch Norris jump on this loose puck to keep the play alive, and then the Sabres forecheck can get at it once again. Now, here's all the details that turn fringe teams into playoff teams. Watch Tuck and Oslin track back really well here to put the Blues puck carrier in a rush position. Again, Norris as the F3 cuts that off, and just like that, she's in the back of the net. When the Sabres can use their speed and tenacity like they do here, they become a far more dynamic team. For them, it just comes down to consistency when creating these types of goals, and ultimately, that may just come down to personnel. Then you have their defensive game, which has been the primary reason why they've stunk the past couple years. I've said this before, but offense and defense are heavily correlated. The Sabres are still in the bottom third of the league in terms of goals allowed, and it's sort of a trade-off for playing their offensive style. When you're as active as Buffalo's defense when jumping up in the rush, it does leave them susceptible to odd man rushes against. It comes with the territory of how they want to generate offense. Just looking at the raw numbers though, the Sabres may rank 21st in goals against in the league, but they actually do a far better job defending than that number suggests. And the biggest indication is the improvement so far in the number of high danger shots against that they allow in comparison to last year. Last year, they finished 21st in the NHL in high danger shots against, whereas this year, they rank 6th league-wide. Tactically, they play a box +1 or zone coverage. It denies shooting and passing lanes rather than individual players. For a young team, this is probably the most simple and effective system, as you avoid the complicated switches and communications that are needed for a man-on-man or hybrid system. When the puck is high, the center or the +1 is there as insurance in case the winger is beat in a one-on-one situation and the defender can step into the slot. The Sabres have done a relatively solid job at limiting these really dangerous chances within this system. And when you can force teams to the perimeter and use double teams along the wall, you start to play less in your own end and get the puck moving up ice to create offense. Now, the Sabres did play this system last year, so what is the difference right now? Well, flat out, they're getting more saves. The tandem of UPL same-day delivery, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Alex Lyon have provided a level of stability that Buffalo hasn't had in years past. In that stretch where Buffalo got hot, they ranked 3rd in the league in terms of goals saved above expected. A hot goalie tandem combined with a more concentrated and cohesive effort on the defensive side of the puck in all 3 zones has put this team back in the conversation to make the playoffs. I am still skeptical of this team's ability to win in a playoff style of game, and what I mean by that is down the stretch in the race for the playoffs, things are going to tighten up immensely in the neutral zone. Rush chances will dry up, and they will be called upon to win games in a different kind of way. That's not to say that they can't do it, but up until this point, the numbers and even the eye test suggest that they may struggle to produce in other ways that isn't rush offense. That being said, the game isn't played on a spreadsheet, and the Sabres are finding ways to win games based on their strengths, and it has them in position to do something we haven't seen in a very, very long time. Now, whether or not this success lasts is something that remains to be seen. So, What do you think of Buffalo? Do you think they're for real, or is it just a hot streak? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, make sure you turn on notifications and subscribe to the channel for more hockey content and breakdowns just like this.